I'm Bob Kruperman at AEMC, and I'm going to talk about the SD card feature of the PowerPad III instrument series. The PowerPad III includes the models 8336, 8333, and 8435. Now, the PowerPad III instrument series measures many different quantities about voltage, current, and power in harmonics. This adds up to a lot of data storage. The instrument has an SD card storage. In 2 weeks, it will store about 2 gigabytes of data. This instrument series can record 2 gigabytes on a card, and that's the limit even if it's a card that's larger, up to 32 gigabytes. Now, before our new feature to directly copy the data, you'd have to use the USB interface to the DataView Power Analyzer Control Panel 2 software, which would take about 24 hours, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, maybe up to 30 hours, to download that all to the PC. And as you can see, we have the time started and ended, about 2 weeks, and then I double click on this, and then it'll just start downloading. We can wait 20 hours for the download, or we can use our new feature, which is to directly transfer the data from the card. Now, the data in the card is not Windows formatted SD card. Our control panel software has a special utility now to copy that data. So let's try to download from the card. Okay, now we're going to copy the SD card from the instrument. So there are a few steps we have to do first. First, we have to prepare some of the tools we'll need. One is a screwdriver. Bigger the better, flat, it must be flat head. A largest coin you have. US quarter sort of works, but bigger would even be better. Now, before we open up the instrument, we have to disconnect everything to avoid any shock hazard. So, we unplug power supply and anything else, the USB and all of the leads, current probes, and especially important, the voltage leads. That's to prevent any hazard of shock. And now we have the instrument with nothing connected. We turn it over. Okay, so the first step is we have to remove the cover. So if the stand is in place, we actually can remove it. And we can turn these thumb screws with a coin. You can also use a screwdriver, although that will tend to wear out those screws. Now, to pry this off, we can use a screwdriver. We can also use the case and pull that directly. It's a little more difficult. And then you have to not get the case separated from its holder. Screwdriver works well also. Now we have to remove the battery. We don't want to disconnect the battery, so we hold on to it as it falls out and we turn the instrument over and just let it drop while we catch it. And we make sure that we do not let this get disconnected. This is the battery connector. Now, to remove the SD card, we push down this plastic tab and we push in the SD card so the spring releases it. And just slide it out. And then it is important that we set the lock tab on the SD card. So we push the slider down here away from the metal tabs of the SD card. That sets it to lock. Okay, so now the reason we do that is we don't want to lose our data on this card. We have 2 weeks recording. It might be hard to go back to the same location to record that. And if we format that on the Windows PC, we've lost the data. The formatting process overwrites certain blocks that will make it essentially impossible to recover the recording. Even though most of it is not overwritten, but the critical parts are, so we don't want to do that. So we have a lock tab on, and now we're going to go to our PC and we're going to transfer it using the DataView PowerPad III control panel program. Okay, I inserted the card in the card reader. And what pops up on the Windows screen is Microsoft Windows. You need to format the disk in Drive E before you can use it. Do you want to format it? The answer is definitely no. So definitely cancel. But try to remember the name of the letter of the drive before you do that, though. So it's drive E, and I hit cancel now. So we have two steps to try to prevent loss of data. One is we put the write protect tab, and the other one is we say cancel. So both prevent the card from being overwritten. Now we run our software, the DataView PowerPad III control panel, and we find under the File menu the option Read SD Card. Now, a couple things about when this can be used. It needs Windows Vista or later, and it also needs an instrument firmware at the latest version, which is 4.1, or anything later we might have. Also, the 8435 is the waterproof version of this instrument, and that one, the SD card is just not accessible, so that's one you really can't use this feature for, because you can't easily get at that card because it's waterproof essentially. So we click Read SD Card, and then we see Search for SD card drive. Now it's going to search through different possible drive letters, and it'll generally also find an empty DVD or CD-ROM drive, but that's not the one we want. So we want to select the letter that we saw when we put the card in, the one that wants it to format, and that was drive letter E. And then we select the correct drive, and then we say Read from SD card. It might give an error message saying it can't read. In that case, there'd be some reason why it couldn't have been read, and then otherwise it's just going to read it. Now, if it happens to include an EN5160 test, it's a special kind of voltage quality test. It would ask you if you want to later download the rest of the data, because only the trend data is on the SD card. The rest of the data, such as alarms, transients, inrush, photographs, those remain on the instrument's internal memory, not in the SD card. Now, in the case of the EN5160 test, there is some of both. So then what would happen if you answered yes to that question, it would, next time you connect to that instrument, it would download the rest of the data and then combine it to your with the data from the card to give a complete report. And if you said no to the question, then it would just treat it like it was a trend recording only. Okay, so now we've downloaded the recording and the index has been rebuilt. We can double click this and we can see a recording. This large data takes a couple seconds to display. So here we have a recording. Now that we know we received it, we want to put the SD card back in the instrument so we can reuse it. Now we place the card back in the instrument. Step one is we unlock the card. So we move the tab here in the direction that is towards the metal tabs of the card. So now it's unlocked. Then we just push it down at this location towards the end of the instrument, and we listen for that little click so it's in place. Then we place the battery. We make sure we didn't disconnect the battery, and we just put the battery back in place. And then we put the cover back on. Sometimes these little screws have gotten turned while it was out of the case, so you make sure they're back in horizontal. Find the two little tabs, let them catch at the end of the instrument there. Push it down until it's nice and tight, and then you use the screws to turn them to the vertical again. And then you can leave the case on or off, turn it back over, and you can turn on the instrument and make sure it works. We can start reconnecting our power. We can reconnect our various probes, and then we want to make sure we put the card back, so we go to the lower middle blue button here, that's for recordings, and then we use the button that shows new recordings, and it shows you can. There are three ways to put the card back in correctly. In this case, we turn it on, we press the lower middle blue button, and it says no memory card installed. So what went wrong? Let's turn it off again. Open the case just as we did before. Get the piece of plastic out of the way. We turn these screws to be horizontal. Use the screwdriver to pull out this part. Turn it over, hold the battery, and then we see we didn't push the card far enough in. It has to click. Now, close it up again. Turn the screws back to vertical. And we turn on the instrument. And we press the lower middle blue button. We try to press the start recording button, and it says protected memory card. That's because we left the tab in the read-only position. So we turn it off again. Take out the card again, and we make sure we set it to the regular read-write part, which is closest to the tabs there, unlocked. Place it again carefully, make sure it clicks. And this time, let's see what would happen if we were to have disconnected our battery. Turn on the instrument, nothing happens. Okay, so now I'm going to plug in the AC cord. Notice the light is on, the power switch. Press the power button, and it does power on. Now, so the only way to really tell that the battery was not properly connected is we unplug the AC power, it's off instantly. So we open the case again. This time we're going to plug it in again. There's only one direction this battery plug can go. You'll see the way it's bent already. It's probably the way it's going to go. It'll fit in that way. The two little tabs are on top, and they go on top there. If you try to put it in the wrong way, it just won't fit. Put it in the correct way. You want to make sure it's fully in. You can use the screwdriver to just gently push it fully in, and place the battery back carefully in the compartment. Put the cover back on, and now try to turn it on, and it goes on. So those are three possible ways that there could be an error in putting the card back: to not put it in so that it clicks, not to put it back into read-write mode, which is unlock mode, or to have accidentally disconnected the battery. So what we did is copied the trend recording from the instruments card directly to the PC, which took about 7 minutes. Could be faster with a faster PC or faster card. And that's instead of about 20 hours or even more than 20 hours that it would have taken to do the download by the USB connection.